All right, I know you heard the saying, when you go woke, you go broke. Well, Disney's learned that the hard way over the years. They've lost millions and millions of dollars because Americans are fed up. They don't want to see these transgender characters, these LGBT whatever characters on their screen. They've had enough. And there's a new Rasmussen Reports poll out that highlights how Americans truly do feel about Walt Disney and the company itself. Joining me to discuss is Mark Mitchell. He's the head poster over at Rasmussen Reports. He's got a great YouTube page. I highly recommend you all head on over right now and make sure you subscribe to. It's Rasmussen Poll. That's how you guys could search for it. It will pop on up. That's what I know I did earlier today. Mark, thank you for joining me. You just put out a new poll that I find to be quite fascinating. You've asked voters, is entertainment from the Disney company better off or better or worse than you remember in the past? And 16% said better, while 47% said worse. Now, I joke with my mom all the time and tell her to save her, VCR and all of her tapes from back in the day, because it's changed so much that you're going to have to rely on the old tapes to show those films to kids. So, you let me know, how do people really feel about the Disney company and how they've gone woke?
I have 4 kids, so this one is near and dear to me, and I will never turn down an opportunity to rag on Disney because this, in my opinion, is a really great example of how you really can't please anybody when you get political. And people hate Disney right now. And I think this is a really important cornerstone of the woke argument because Disney got political in the 2020s and their favorability dropped really bad. In 2022, when we asked about it, it was down to 42%. And it's gotten a little bit better since then. They've, sort of backed off on the LGBT stuff. But the problem is that the media they're putting out, according to Americans, sucks. That's the
Mhm.
problem. It isn't just that they had DEI. It isn't that they put many LGBT characters into their entertainment. It's because they are putting out garbage now, and Americans are taking notice. And that's not something you can fix overnight. I've heard all kinds of stories about how all the people that have been there for decades, who perfected an art, who perfected 2D animation in a way that Disney was a gem of American entertainment, and now it's a laughing stock.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's how most Americans feel about all of that. It's frustrating because I remember seeing, I don't know what the premiere was, but I remember seeing one of their actresses being interviewed on the red carpet, and they were just thrilled to tell you about the rainbow community characters that were added to the film. And most parents just don't want their kids brainwashed or even have to learn about that so soon because there's really no purpose in it. I remember here in Florida, I mean, Disney went to war with Governor Ron DeSantis over it and lost miserably. So, how do you feel about this? Do you think Americans are going to start waking up from all this, and Disney will start waking up from all this, I should specifically say, and just put an end to this?
Well, if people have been following us, Americans have been
Mhm.
telling Disney for a very long time to back off this stuff. We polled exactly on that. We found that 71% of American adults agree with the statement that Disney should return to wholesome programming and allow parents to decide when their children are taught about sexuality. 53% of Americans strongly agree with that statement. That is why Disney polls basically like Mitch McConnell. They're basically polling like a mediocre to negatively viewed American politician. And it should be 80, 90%. They should be trying to please all Americans right now. And they haven't been because Bob Iger has been trying to bump elbows with the Democrat establishment elite. And here you have it. Only 16% of Americans say their entertainment is better. And this other one, who I don't know if we're going to get to it, the one that have you chosen not to watch a Disney movie this year because of politics?
Mhm.
23% of Americans say yes to that statement. That might not sound like a lot, but honestly, how many of Americans go to a Disney movie every year? This could be a massive number of people if you just think it's if that's just one person and they miss just one movie, we're talking about like 60 million American adults. That is hundreds of millions in revenue. And I don't know why the Disney shareholders aren't trying to oust Bob Iger. Why aren't they screaming about potentially billions in lost revenue? And I'll tell you, the other sad thing is when you go political, you can't please anybody because Disney favorability dropped in 2021, 2022 because of Republicans. It got down to 42%. It's up a little bit now to 49% because they've moderated somewhat. But who's dropped? The Democrats. So Disney courted all of this Democrat dogma. Only 19% of Democrats have a very favorable impression of Disney. That's horrible. That's horrible. Like,
That's awful.
37% say somewhat, but there they are. They've pissed off everybody.
Well, no surprise there. I remember when Bob Barker was brought back on board too. He was supposed to fix all this. He was supposed to be the one to comb over a lot of the relationships, and I don't think it's actually worked very well. So we'll see if Iger feels a desire to improve the relationships. Because again, like you just stated, I mean, that's a lot of Americans who are just not interested in Disney films based on their politics that they've
Yeah.
stuck in their films, and they like hide it, they tuck it away in there, and it's infuriating to see. But I wanted to get your take on something else, because I know you guys also just recently put out another poll, and it's got this is like the big talk, and everyone's loving to talk about Greenland and whether or not we are going to purchase Greenland. Just earlier in the week, Congressman Andy Ogles introduced Make Greenland Great Again Act, which is supposed to give President Trump the authorization to negotiate the potential purchase of Greenland. Now, you've asked Americans, should President Trump or President Donald Trump has suggested that the United States should acquire Greenland as a purchase in our national interest. Do you support or oppose that? Well, 25% strongly agreed, 19% somewhat support it, 9% oppose it, somewhat oppose it, I should say, 36% strongly oppose it, and 11% just were not sure. That's pretty interesting because, people in Greenland are very supportive of the belief that we might actually bring them on board. There was just actually this recent tweet that went out in regards to Greenland supporting joining the United States. There was a new poll that was done by Patriot Poll, it looks like. And the
Hmm.
majority, 57.3%, said that they actually want Greenland to join the US. So break down your latest poll, because it seems like Americans really are interested in this.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing this one up. This has to be one of the most requested polls and also the most difficult thing to poll on earth. And that Patriot polling, that's great for them. I would be highly suspicious of those results. There are less than 60,000 people in Greenland, which basically means that they had to contact everybody multiple times. There are multiple dialects of the native Greenland language. I'm pretty sure they aren't employing, linguistic. Well, here's the other thing too: is that as part of the EU, I think there is regulation and laws about how you can contact those people with their cell phones. So I don't know about that poll. What I can tell
Oh.
you is Americans are kind of split on this, right? It's like 44% to 45%, and 36 are strongly opposed, but that's less than the number of people who are strongly disapproving of Trump. So it's kind of a wash, but it's Republican red meat. 70% of Republicans said, sure, yeah, we support that. I think that's probably because they like the idea of extending democracy to people. And the independents aren't horribly against it. It's 40% support to 47% oppose. And even 23% of Democrats say, yeah, sure, fine. But anybody who's been following Trump, listen, if you see outrage, like as you know, Breanna, if you see outrage about this, they don't understand Trump. And all this is the art of the deal. He's posturing. There's a win-win deal to be made with the people of Greenland. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be something, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people support it just because they want to see America, go back to its greatness. I mean, the fact that China's out here buying up all this land and in our sphere is deeply concerning. And so we want to go back to the days where the United States was just as aggressive as becoming the dominant power. I think we've lost that, especially over the last 4 years. So I understand why a lot of conservatives are very much interested in this. Mark, you can tell me your true feelings about this. Anytime somebody floats the idea of us purchasing Canada, I cringe, because Canada has a ton of problems. It's probably even worse
It
than here in the
does.
United States in regards to immigration and its healthcare system. So I don't want any part in that. But what's your take on the purchase of Canada? Because I'm dying on the inside, and I hope we don't do that.
Well, I think what's fascinating about any of these questions is it shows the split between what would formerly have been neoconservatism, American empire building. Because Republicans are not overwhelmingly for the proxy war in Ukraine, and yet they are overwhelmingly for expanding democracy to some of these other countries that are on fallen on hard times, let's just say. And I think that that is a pretty important split. It shows a pretty benevolent aspect of the Make America Great Again movement that's different from what came before. Canada is a big one. We should probably pull on it again. I don't think we specifically asked about Canada, but I can tell you it would probably be an utter mess because right now I'm imagining the huge fight would probably be over whether we bring it in one state or we bring it in multiple states, or if certain of their provinces would want to secede. The folks in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, right? Probably a little bit different than the people in Toronto. And if we took Canada in all at once, I'm pretty sure it would increase the Democrat majority to a pretty insurmountable level. So a
Yeah.
lot to think about there. But listen, maybe Pierre Poilievre will pull it together for them with Castro on the way out. But I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah. We'll have to say, I'm hopeful that we're just doing this just for a good discussion, a talking point, because gosh, that'd be a nightmare. Mark Mitchell, you've done great work as always. Thank you so much for joining me. And I want to remind our audience, you do even better work over at YouTube. So definitely head on over there and give that a subscription. Hit that little subscribe button. It is very important that you do so. Mark Mitchell, thank you as always. In case you didn't know, this show is available as a podcast as well. So make sure you head on over to Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever your favorite podcasting platform is, and give us a follow. We've got a ton of exclusive content coming your way. I'm heading to DC for the inauguration, so don't miss out on any of my coverage. A show like this together isn't easy. It takes a lot of manpower, and we're looking to expand. I gotta say, folks, it's not easy. It takes me about 14 hours a day to put this show together, and I need some assistance because we're about to get a lot of documents coming from our federal government very, very soon. So if you would like to help me out and help this program out, head on over to supportbree.com. That is a platform we've set up to help us keep independent journalism alive. Supportbree.com. That's supportbre.com. It's done through DonorBox, so it's safe and secure, and you get to pick the dollar amounts. And then you get to pick whether or not you want to make a monthly or a one-time donation. The monthly donations are extremely beneficial because it helps us come up with a budget. So again, folks, it is supportbree.com. It's done through DonorBox, safe and secure, and it helps keep journalism alive. Real journalism, though, independent journalism. So again, folks, head on over to supportbree.com because I greatly appreciate it when you support my work as an independent journalist.